Welcome back to the basement. In this episode, we're going to take this Talman TMB 100 and we're going to slap some other pearl block inlays on it without pulling frets. All right, so I've been preparing to do this for about a day. What I've got some really inexpensive mother pearl block inlays from Amazon. These are really opaque. They're not the real iridescent ones, which I kind of like because it goes really well with the body. So you can see it's definitely mother of pearl, but it's just not that iridescent, almost abalone-esque look to it. So it's very milky, but it still is a mother of pearl block inlay. So the idea here is I'm going to put these block inlays in without pulling the frets. So I did it once before on my Fender Jazz bass, so I kind of have an idea of what the process is, except those were perfectly cut. So one of the things that I've got issues with here, this one's really obvious, was that these aren't exactly square the way they came to me from Amazon. So you can clearly see that is not a perfect rectangle. If I can get stupid camera focus, there we go. So you can clearly see this has got some issues. So what I've been doing off camera is just kind of straightening them up on this 8-inch leveling beam. So I'm going to continue to get after that. I've done the first 5. I've numbered them so I know which ones I've done, which should be obvious. So I've got 4 more to go. They're the 4 biggest ones and the 4 also the ones that are most jacked up. Another issue I've got here is the 12th fret marker doesn't exactly cover the 2 existing dots. So I've got to figure out a solution to stretch this out a little bit and have it work. So I've also been experimenting with this piece of beautiful spalted oak. Cut a chunk of it off. I stabilized it with thin super glue on all 6 sides and started to sand and polish it a little bit. And it's, I think this could be a cool thing to kind of stick in the middle. If I cut this right down the middle and just add a thin strip of that, that could be cool. With it being the 12th fret marker, it really should be 2, which means 2 cuts. So we'll just have to see. I also have some other mother of pearl that doesn't quite match, which might add some contrast. Let me find that. So the other thing I could do is I could take this other piece of mother of pearl that I have from another set of fret markers that's slightly more iridescent but equally white. I could run a strip either in the middle or 2 strips, which I'll probably do the 2-strip one just to make it more complicated. But I think the change in direction will kind of indicate or give a little bit of a real subtle detail to the 12th fret. So I've got to sort that out too. All right, so what I'll probably end up doing tonight is just finishing up getting these remaining 4 fret markers squared up and decide what I'm going to do for this 12th fret and kind of go from there. Let's get after it. Okay, now that everything is squared up, all the inlays, I got to figure out this 12th fret. So this 12th fret is short, literally about 1/8 of an inch. So I've got to make it longer. I've decided I'm gonna not use this spalted oak. I think that would be cool, but I want something a little bit less conspicuous. So I'm gonna use this slight contrasting piece of mother of pearl block inlay. It is pretty much the exact same thickness in most spots. There's a little bit of variation, but not much. Ideally, put 2 stripes down where just to symbolize the 12th fret. I think that's what I need to do, which means I've got a lot of really tediously small cuts to do. And I'm not exactly sure how I want to do it. All right, so I'm going to do a test cut on this small piece of block inlay that is kind of my scrap piece that I'm going to be using to lengthen this. I'm going to take my 24 TPI razor saw. It's a very thin kerf saw, fine thread or teeth count. All right, that's actually not too bad. I don't know how straight a cut this is, but it looks to be fine. So that's good proof of concept. So I can still use, if I don't cut perfectly straight, I can cut a little long and then clean it up on the leveling beam. So I'm gonna have a lot of cuts that are gonna butt up to each other. So it's gonna really show if I screw it up. So that's my only really big concern. I don't want to do these super thin because I think that would be, it would kind of suck to do them super thin. So I think I'm going to go with this width, which means I'm going to lose more of this piece of mother of pearl. So I just got to figure out to get the length that I want, which is, let me just draw it out here. But you can kind of get the idea. It's covered in super glue right now, keeping it together. So, first real multi-piece custom inlay I've ever attempted. This methodology is probably the worst. But I know once I get the groove cut out, it won't matter if I don't have the pieces glued together, because I'll do that when I set it in. So I just want to have it all perfectly square to each other as best I can, and then we'll fit it in the fretboard. All right, so now that I'm done getting the inlays prepared, it's now going to be just a matter of taking the neck off, making sure it's nice and flat before I start making the cutouts and the inlays holes for these block inlays. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I'm going to, sleep on this, get my thoughts together, and be prepared to do a much better job tomorrow. So far, thinking I like the solution that I came up with for this 12 fret inlay. Yeah, it'll be a nice little touch that you're only gonna pick up when you look at it very, very closely. So the important thing though is it covers the original 2-dot 12th fret inlay. So I think we're going to be in good shape. So I'll be back at this thing tomorrow. All right, it's time to inlay these mother of pearl blocks. All right, so this is going to be the point of no return. I've got the block inlays marked out. I've got the spots where they're going to go cut out of the tape. Whew, it's time to start cutting some wood. So to do that, I've got a brand new, what do they call this? This is a straight routing bit for a Dremel. This is a 1/4 inch. I believe this is going to be, hopefully, the same width as the smallest of the inlays. If not, then I'll have to do that one by hand. And I don't have a chisel smaller than a 1/4 inch, so that should be fun. But there's other ways I can hog out some of that material. I'm going to go ahead and install this bit and set the depth. Now the first fret marker is going to be the biggest challenge because I took the nut out and there's not a 0 fret for the router attachment to sit on. So I have to basically measure the depth or the height of this fret and find something that simulates that and put it across the nut slot so I can do that fret. And I'll set my depth using one of the inlays itself. Because we're not installing this on a flat fretboard, there is a radius. It's really much easier to tell from here. But there's a radius. So what that means is I'm just going to be able to get the center of that in all the way, and then the rest of it is going to stick off. So let me show you. So I have to set it in deep enough so that the top and bottom edge still go down inlay into the wood. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I need it at least, I can't go any deeper than the thickness of the actual inlay, because then the center part will be recessed and the rest won't. So I'm going to file material off to match the radius of the fretboard after I get it set in, and that's going to be the plan. So there's a ton of hand filing work. So if you're not a patient person, or you don't think the juice is worth the squeeze for this effort, then this isn't the project for you. I personally just love block inlays, so that's why I'm doing this. But anyway, I'm going to set the depth on this. I don't need this guide attachment, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to set the depth. I'm going to make something to shim up that first fret, and I'm going to go from there. Start routing some grooves. Let's go. All right, I've got 8 more of these to inlay, and then I can start filing. I'm gonna call it right here for tonight because, yeah, it's getting late. And I need to get some rest because I got a lot of work to do over the next 1 or 2 nights. This thing should be finished this weekend. All right, so it's the next night. I've got just the 1 block inlay in. It's time to try and get the rest of them at least laid in and glued tonight. I hope I can get all that done tonight. That is a tall order, given the fact that it's, 11 o'clock already. So let's see how much of this I can get done tonight. All right, all the carving is done. It's definitely a little bit of mistakes, so I'm gonna have to chop up some of these shavings with a razor and start mixing some epoxy. What I'll do is I'll use the sawdust to fill in any gaps. But man, that is gonna look sick. All right, so I'm gonna use some JB Weld 2-part epoxy. This is 5-minute epoxy. I'm gonna do just a little bit at a time. Oh, it came with its own little teeny tiny popsicle stick. How convenient. So it says it dries in 5 minutes and cures in an hour. All right, as far as the inlay work goes, they're all in. That's the easy part. So now I've got the filing, the sanding, the polishing, and all that radiusing that goes along with doing this with the frets in. So it's definitely easier to do this with the frets out, for sure, without a doubt. But if the fret job is in good shape, you got to ask yourself, well, is it going to take me longer to file down 9 inlays and polish them doing it the hard way, or is it going to take more time to pull the frets and redo the fret job entirely? I've never done a fret job, so I know I'm going to be slow at that. At least I've done this one other time before, so my confidence level, or at least I feel like I know what to expect with this methodology. So anyway, I'm gonna call it right here for tonight. I know this should be technically kind of dry-ish, but I don't really want to push my luck right now. I'm in a good spot, and like I said, I just don't want to push my luck. So I will come back and start the filing tomorrow, and yeah, these inlays will be done tomorrow evening, which is pretty cool. I've also got a couple other things on order for this base. I'm going to do some lumen lay side dot inlays. So I'm going to drill out the existing indicators and put the lumen lays in, and then I'm also going to make a bone nut most likely, which is something I really struggle at. So I need the practice, I need the reps in on that. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I might have a surprise up my sleeve for electronics and wiring. Not sure yet, but I've got some irons in the fire, let's say. So hopefully that pans out. So I'm excited about that. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow where I finish up this these block inlays. See you. Okay, now it's time to do the most tedious part of this whole project, and that is the hand filing and radiusing of these block inlays. Let's get after the filing, sanding, and polishing, because there's a lot of it. Okay, this neck is pretty much done. The only thing I have left to do to finish this thing up, well, really, there's nothing I need to do to finish this thing up. Just oil it and put it back on the guitar. Now like I said, I am gonna put some Inlay side dots on it, so I am gonna have to pop this neck off again. I'm not gonna be able to wait till those come in to see what this thing looks like back on the bass with the strings on it. So I'm gonna start off by giving it a nice liberal coat of lemon oil. I'm curious to see what other people use on their fretboards to condition them and rehydrate them. I know Crimson makes some cool stuff. I haven't tried it yet, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm open to different suggestions. Again, that's why I love the community that this kind of stuff creates, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I know I can count on folks on the internet to tell me what I'm doing wrong. So that said, definitely if you've got some suggestions on other products to use, let me know what they are. So there was a light coat of lacquer or something on this instrument, on the fretboard. This is definitely looking a lot different. So I'm gonna zoom in. It's looking a lot more orangish, like Jatoba wood, rather than like a traditional rosewood, which is cool. I mean, I think this would look better with like a darker ebony type finish, and I could stain it, but let's let the wood do what the wood's gonna do as far as color goes. I mean, an orangish color fretboard's not the end of the world, but with a black and white instrument like this, I could definitely see its merits. I'm putting it on really, really thick. I want it to soak in, and then I'll wipe off the excess. Now I did sand every fret, every spot on the fretboard with at least 400 grit. I polished the mother of pearl up to 1000. And these were, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but they were very, very kind of plain, opaque looking. But in real life now, they're starting to shine and pop with this level of finish on them. And I think it'll only get more so. I just don't think the camera's picking that up or doing it justice anyway. Oh yeah. You can definitely see the contrast in the two different types of mother of pearl. The two stripes are what you would traditionally kind of think of when you think of mother of pearl, in the iridescence that it gives off. So that contrast is kind of cool. But that, just adding that little bit, I didn't add much. I added about 2.5, 3 millimeters maybe in overall length to that fret marker. But I think that was a cool call. My first multi-piece inlay. It's not perfect, but I'll take it. For the most part, this neck is done, and I dig it. And that 12th fret inlay is very subtle, but if you're looking for it, it's there and it pops. All right, I'm gonna call this episode right here. I'm absolutely thrilled with how these block inlays turned out. This absolutely looks way better than when I first brought this bass home. It was a plain Jane Talman bass, $100. It does not look like a $100 bass right now. It looks like it's upgraded Big Brother. The only thing it's missing is the electronics package, and we're gonna try and sort that out with a different solution than the expensive big box electronic names and see what we can come up with there. But first, in the very next episode, I am going to play around with Inlay side dot inlays. I've never had glow-in-the-dark side dot markers. I'm interested to see if they're worth the effort and worth the price, because Inlays are not cheap for whatever reason. I don't understand the pricing on that. It just feels like there's cheaper solutions than that. But I'm going to try it, see what it's like, see if it's worth it. I'm also going to make a custom bone nut
And that should finish off the aesthetics, and then I can start diving into the electronics. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time down here in the basement.